All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. The conversation begins right now. We're calling it State of Politics or State of the Race or Elections Countdown. 17 days to go, a lot of things that are going on. Let me introduce my guests real quick, beginning from my farthest left. Dennis Ntumbi is here, Public Service and Governance Expert. Thank you so much for making time. Fauzia Yusuf is also here, Communication Strategist. Asante sana for making time. We're still waiting for Mark Bichachi, Communication and Governance Expert. As soon as he comes in, we will rope him into the conversation. Let's start with the dailies before we get into the debates that just ended. The deputy presidential debates ended. The presidential debates is coming up on Tuesday. But there's a lot of things that came out from the deputy presidential debate, which we'll also be talking about here. There are quite a number of issues. The relationship between the president and his deputy, the judiciary, wealth declaration came up, campaign financing came up, legalizing weed came up. Also, the graft issue came up, a commission to be set up on the UDA side, on the Azimio side. They're talking about the time frames. In the Roots Party, they're talking about death penalty. We'll talk about all that if time allows. Let's start off with the Daily Nation front page. Venezuelan with the election stickers held at the airport. Detectives were last evening investigating 3 men, among them a Venezuelan who flew into the country at midday from London carrying 16 rolls of elections-related stickers in their luggage. Even as the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission claimed all is well. In fact, there's a statement they sent out on their Twitter handle. Let me bring that up and read parts of it. That's from the IBC after this incident at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. IBC sent out a statement on their Twitter handle saying it is with extreme consternation that the Commission has learned of the arrest of 3 key personnel responsible for deployment and management of election technology infrastructure. The 3 personnel who are employees of Smartmatic International BV were arrested upon arrival at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport from Venezuela. This is despite the Commission Secretary CEO explaining to the security authorities that the 3 personnel were in the country to execute a lawful contract relating to the deployment of technology in elections. So the Commission has a valid legal contract executed between itself and Smartmatic International BV for the supply, delivery, installation, testing, commissioning, support, and maintenance of the Kenya Integrated Election Management System. So the brazen decision of the security authorities to arrest, detain, and confine in a solitary hideout the 3 personnel without justification is an exhibition of intimidation on hardworking persons who are only keen to deliver robust technology infrastructure to conduct a credible, secure, and verifiable election. The Commission wishes to inform the public that the arrest and continued holding of the personnel has the inevitable effect of hampering the deployment of technology in the forthcoming general election. Technology plays a central role in elections, and the Commission wonders what the intention behind the holding of the technical personnel is meant to achieve. Finally, the Commission says it's concerned about the unjustified intimidation, harassment, and blackmail whatsoever, and demands the immediate release of the 3 employees of Smartmatic International BV. I read that verbatim from the statement that they put out on their website. The police on the other side are saying that such officials, they should have been informed if such officials were coming and what they were carrying, and why that cargo was not concealed is also a question of concern. And also joining us now is Mark Bichachi, Communication and Governance Expert. Thank you so much for making time. But Dennis, let me start with you on this. What kind of impact does this have on the confidence on IBC or even the election process itself?
Thank you very much, Trevor, and good morning, viewers. I think one of the things that will happen with such kind of unclear circumstances, that we're not quite sure whether these are spurious allegations or the truth around it. I think from the media we read one thing. There's a clarification from IBC in terms of that these were the technological aspect. These were people who, indeed, from Smartmatic, who are coming to help within the technological aspect. But what this does is that it casts an aspersion on the side of IBC, and also it implicates IBC in terms of working as a one-man army, rather than perhaps the consolidated effort of ensuring that the elections, the security part of ensuring that elections are covered, that you inform everybody, including your, all other, interested, practitioners and participants, rather.
Yeah.
I think every movement that IBC makes, everybody needs to to participate.
Yeah.
So I think we wait for today to get to know what the truth is. But I think IBC is consistently shooting themselves on the foot. Whether the intent is good or not, it's a matter that we still don't know.
Yeah.
And so doing operations that are phantom in nature, and then so the incident plays out in the media, and even the media themselves seem to don't know the truth. And I think there should have been a clarity that perhaps is sought from the IBC thereabout. But IBC seem to have a grave communication problem. And I think essentially this will be as tight a rope on their neck.
Yeah.
And the truth needs to come out today. And so we have, according to IBC, key functionaries that are supposed, or operatives that are supposed to deliver the technological part of the election being in police custody, not knowing what is happening within that field. And I think this is a very, very, very serious thing that IBC must come out clean,
Yeah.
and the government itself must come out clean on exactly, what is happening.
Yeah. Mark, who's dropping the ball here? There seems to be a disjointed coordination of this entire election process, where the IBC officials are saying these are our officials, they came in, and the JK officials are saying we were not informed that they were coming with election material, therefore they were arrested there. Who's dropping the ball?
You know, the law is clear that the IEBC must not only do a precise exercise in counting the votes, but they must also do so in a transparent manner. And that is a matter of what not only the public, but the law expects from IEBC. So if there's any opaqueness, lack of transparency, then it falls squarely on the feet of the IEBC for the failure to disclose. It should have been open knowledge to all and sundry that these officials are coming in, if indeed they're IEBC officials. And the reason why I blame IEBC is in the wording of their statement, which you've just read. They take a very tough stance as though they have been grievously wounded. But we need to remember that if you were sitting at our border post as a Kenyan and you saw people entering the country with IEBC material, with electoral material that you do not know, I don't care whether you're in Kenya Kwanza, in Azimio, or even you are with Ruben Kigame, who's not yet on the ballot. You as a concerned citizen would seize both material and person to ensure that whoever is entering and doing so legally, because the risk for this country is not just about a rigged election. We know that in this country, such matters have led us to the brink of war. So it is not something that should be taken lightly. And when IEBC comes out guns blazing, I do not think they're being fair to the Kenyan people, because they need to have declared a schedule of who is coming into the country and from where. For example, who told us about Venezuela? This is the first time I'm hearing the country Venezuela associated with our election. In fact, people have left for Greece. So when did Venezuelans come into the picture? All of these things do not augur or bode well to drawing an image of a transparent election on the part of the IEBC. And whereas it could be entirely true that these people have come in with a genuine reason to do the work, but I'm telling you, if you find a strange man in your bedroom when you are away at work and you are not told the plumber is coming to fix the bathroom, he might be stoned.
Okay, Fazia, do you have confidence in the IEBC after seeing all this that's happening right now? Just 17 days to the polls.
IEBC is an entity by itself.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they have whatever plans that they had in place. The only thing is that you cannot work in isolation. There are certain entities that need to coordinate for things to be effective. And in my opinion, each of these entities need to be aware of what is coming. You don't expect anything to go through the airport without the necessary authorities being aware. So I don't, as I agree with Mark, I don't find it fair that IEBC should make any noise about this. In fact, I think it's very serious that at this point in time, it's a critical point in time, that certain things should happen without prior notice to the relevant authorities. Yeah. I believe that certain matters like this need to be on the right table at the right time to actually facilitate and make it seamless, you know. So I think it's only fair that the necessary authorities have taken the necessary steps to ensure that things are safe. And at this point in time, there are certain things that can actually draw a lot of emotions. And we all know what it is. And as Mark said, Venezuelan,
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that. I'm hearing that today.
Okay.
And we need to remember, this is against the backdrop where William Ruto has said that 800,000 names have been deleted from his base. We've got William Ruto going to the United States saying that this election is going to be rigged. We've got Raila Odinga who's complained about the manual versus electronic register. So already there's a backdrop of political distrust as you enter into this. My friend, IEBC needs to remember that if it was a spouse, it is the spouse that has been caught cheating previously. And it was caught doing so by a court of law. When you've been caught and you go back to that house, my friend, you disclose everything. You give your spouse the schedule. 8 a.m. I was here, 8:15 I drove to this place. And that's what IEBC needs to understand. They need to tell us everything. They need to tell us what is under the carpet, above the carpet, what the carpet is made of. And that's the only way they are going to win this fight. Otherwise, the moment another Ugandan, another Venezuelan, wherever lands at our airports, I can assure you they'll be arrested again. And the person who's arresting them should be given a state commendation for watching out for the benefit of this country.
Yeah, but Dennis, you're in the security sector as well. There's a thin line between what we are calling lack of transparency and also confidentiality. So should IEBC have just announced to everyone that so-and-so is coming with these stickers? Isn't that a security threat in itself? Are they supposed to just communicate inter-institution-wise? The security sector knows so-and-so is coming. IEBC has said so-and-so is coming with these stickers. From a security standpoint, should they be that open on everything?
I think there are a certain level that information is cascaded. But what is interesting is that, you know, arms of government that are supposed to be interdependent are the ones that are colliding. You know, this is not a citizen arrest. This is not Kenyans who basically saw IEBC stickers and decided to do that. This is the police, and the police have the responsibility to ensure that they protect the elections against any fraud. They have a constitutional mandate to make sure that the fraud aspect of the electioneering process, the process is as good as the voting day. If the process then has issues, then it means that indeed, you know, the fidelity of delivering the vote is in question. And therefore, we get into a process of litigation and accusations and finger-pointing. My disappointment with IEBC is the opaqueness, even though they mean well. The lack of communicating, you know, across the board with basically key players is something that is disappointing. And therefore, that aspect alone brings the issue of disinformation. And I think we are playing now into disinformation because none of us are aware of the truth. And then when disinformation comes, the intent of the electoral body is in question. The integrity is in question. And so we shouldn't be here. And we need to plead with the chairman, you know, to be a bit open on some of those issues. You understand? And also, we need to also ask the Fourth Estate that I think sometimes before you publish information that looks like spurious, you know, find out from everybody, find out what is the accurate information from the police force, what is the accurate information, you know, from IEBC, and then at least then you can do your investigative journalism properly. You know, this disinformation now will play into sometimes the narratives of both camps. So a lot of people will start to say, oh, you know, this is the government helping Raila Odinga because he doesn't want electronic, he wants manual register. Then the other people will start saying this and this. A few days to the election, so you have camps divided on interest rather than us supporting IEBC to make sure that they deliver a process that is actually foolproof. So my entire blame lies on IEBC for being opaque. And if then these people who are arrested today are from Smartmatic, they sit as one of the most integral practitioners and functionaries within the electoral planning process. You understand that the aspect of technology is not just on the aspect of registering Also, it's on identification or verification and the transmission part. The transmission part is largely what took us into the litigation. And not just that, one of the key contentions now is on the identification and verification part, is on Clark 2, whether we should have a manual register and the effects of that manual register and many other things. So this plays into such critical aspects of the electioneering process and the voting day itself that IBC cannot get us here. It is unacceptable completely, and I think both the police and the IBC owe Kenyans an open advisory on what exactly transpired, so that then our confidence on this electoral body shouldn't be eroded whatsoever.
All right, I want us to get into the debates that happened earlier on, but there's still a bit of content to cover here on the dailies. Let's see, locked out in the venues battle. Now the battle for prime rally venues in Nairobi took a twist yesterday after DP William Ruto's team was informed that Nyayo Stadium, which it had booked and paid for, would not be available, and neither would Kasarani. This even as Junet Mohammed insisted Azimio would hold its final campaign call at the Nyayo National Stadium. The same is happening on the Daily Nation. Ruto Raila caught up in a zero-sum game as the two front runners go after each other's jugular and threaten to investigate each other and jail each other for they should win the elections. A dark cloud hangs over the first days of post-Kenyatta future. That will come to in just a bit. This issue of venues, is this that important to you? Let's start from there. Or is this just politicians becoming politicians? Is it important who holds venue and who holds a rally and who applied for it first? What do you read into this as a Kenyan?
I read politics into all this.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Kenya is so big. And if it has to be within within Nairobi, for obvious reasons, obviously, then we still have so many other venues. But then again, I'm sure the relevant authorities know who came in, when they secured the space, and so on and so forth. But I really don't see a very big deal in this venue thing. Okay. It's high time we discussed other very important things, like matters that are fundamental to the country's development. At this point in time, this is really petty, in my opinion.
Okay, Mark.
Well, you know, the thing is it's definitely a crybaby situation. It's definitely petty frustration if it is what is happening. But also it is the symbolism that I think they're fighting for. They're fighting for that last big crowd, that last big hurrah, if you will, where they went out in a blaze of glory. But there is no limit to space. You know, the Uhuru Park is very much available. There are many other venues. Jacaranda Gardens is also available, and they're all viable venues. Now, this is typical because, number one, and again, this is the thing about government officials acting in a certain way, because UDA will claim that this is Azimio pressing their thumb on them and using government to oppress them. And then Azimio would say that this guy simply did not book, and it becomes a whole political issue when it really should not be an issue. And I think what needs to happen, and as we draw to the last stages of this campaign, let them go, let them have their rallies wherever they will, and let us vote in peace. And I think that is the message that we need to carry, that let us vote in peace. Let's not have this clashing venue issue, cancelled venue issues. Let's not have those issues. Let us try to close out a rather peaceful campaign period, I must add, with the same note of peace that we've had.
Yeah, Dennis? Is this even an issue that we should be discussing, really, or is it just politics?
I think from where I sit, it's a serious issue.
Okay.
When you look at the Bill of Rights, Part 2, and you look at 37 of that, which talks about assembly and many other freedoms, I think this is an assault to that very freedom. We know that the state is playing politics. UDA has every evidence that they paid first and they booked the venue first. And therefore, that needs to be respected by all means. And I don't think this is a thing that we don't need to be dismissive of rights. The first article when it comes to right is the right to access rights. And so when that is denied, then it means that the assault on democracy, the assault on the sovereignty of the individual, and that is the constituent right, and Article 1 of the Constitution, then is violated. And so this is a serious matter. We have seen that from the days that we never used to access democracy, from the days of Moi and you know thereof, access to such venues, access to venues where you want to articulate your rights was then stifled. And then so this stranglehold seems to be coming in silently though. And so this is a matter that we need to contest to make sure that the fidelity of democracy is realized and that the access to the access that the fact that you must access every right is one of the things that's critical. And I think UDA must press the pedal all through. And I think even from a commercial perspective, this venue was rented to them. And then that means on that particular day, this is their venue. I don't think they should go anywhere else. Okay. This is an assault on democracy, assault on their rights. And they should press whatsoever. And that is what defines the freedom of us as Kenyans, is that when something is a right, then nobody should take it away. And this is a public asset, by the way. This is not a private asset. Nyayo Stadium is accessible to all Kenyans. Yeah. But it says that give us a few fee, some monies that we can pay, you know, our workers and whatever it is that there is. Yeah. But if UDA paid first, there's a contract in place, and if ODM then have the same, then the management of Stadia would act especially offensive in, you know, consumer rights. And not just consumer rights. And I think they tend to degrade the Bill of Rights quite strongly. So this is something that must be pursued in all rights. Okay. I agree that towards the end of the campaign, one of the things that we need to push for is the right to a peaceful environment, but also, most importantly, is the right to justice. Okay. Any stifling of justice thereabout must be contested within the highest degrees possible. Okay. And I think also this sits as a critical interference to the electoral process. Why am I saying that? Is because the right for me to express myself, my political rights, sits within protective articles and chapters within the Constitution. Okay. And Stadia itself is sitting as a nefarious institution of the government that is assaulting democracy.
Okay, Mark. You know, and I told you exactly that this is how the kind of spin that it would take. Number one, let's be clear. You know, politicians are capable of anything. They are capable of forcing an official to receive an amount and accept when they know there's already another event there. That is not beyond the scope of what politicians would do. However, it is also not beyond the scope of politicians for someone to book a venue and then for you to use a different route to block them from having that venue. So both of these cases, for me, hold true like Schrodinger's cat. I am not trusting anyone on this because we know politicians will want to play victim and we know politicians will want to oppress each other. However, in terms of this making sense, it does not. Why? Because if you want to have the biggest crowd in Nairobi, there is a park called Uhuru Park where you go to. You don't go to Kasarani. Kasarani is for launching manifestos and things like that. So all of these things, in as much as I agree with Dennis that if the state is using its immense power to make sure you don't have any meetings at all, then you would say that it's an infringement of your right. But when you can have meetings in other areas and just one area is blocked off to you, you cannot say your rights are being taken away. You cannot say because you went to the bar and you found it full, now your right to drinking has been taken.
No, but you see, Uhuru Park, they're saying that will happen in September. It's still under renovation now. So they can't access
Uhuru Park is, by the way, Uhuru Park is not accessible. The reason why the choice of Nyayo Stadium is critical, other than the fact that Nyayo Stadium is a national monument, we agree that, and it's central to many other things, is that there was a gender redirection that most of the venues in Nairobi are not available. So the booking of Nyayo Stadium, the fact that Stadia received 1.5 million from a hustler party is indeed itself offensive enough. And this is we call obtaining by false pretenses. Why would you obtain money from people yet you don't intend to give them access to the facility? You understand? This is offensive to Stadia. And I think the Stadia must come and explain themselves that, look, we are not conmen. Look, we received orders from above not to access. But this is a facility that is owned by Wanjiku. This is a facility that is owned by hustlers. And by the way, in terms of capacity, Mark, Uhuru Park, I think, because I've done a lot of events as a security expert in this, seats, the capacity is about 10,000. Now Stadium gives us at least a good capacity, FIFA capacity of about 19,000. So in itself, and it has its own protective measures thereabout.
Okay.
But however, this has nothing to do with capacity. This has nothing to the fact that there's a proper assistification of space for UDA. Government is saying, oh, sorry, this one now is under renovation. Sorry, this other one is not. And from where we see it, from a hustler perspective, affording the whole of Kasarani that they charge almost about 3 million plus. You know, this we're a party that is funded by hustlers. Kumi hapo, 20 pale, 50 pale. So hustlers paying 1.5 million. And this money being obtained by the state that is extremely wealthy on forced presences is in itself an assault on consumer rights, on our freedoms, and whatever it is. When you read the whole chapter 4 of the Constitution, Stadia itself sits monstrously sneering at hustlers and saying you have no right to assembly.
You know,
Back, I have to take a break.
no,
Yeah,
no,
go
just to
ahead.
conclude this thing,
Yeah.
Dennis has blown this thing out of proportion.
No, sir.
Let me tell
Let
you,
him finish.
if Stadia Kenya had
Yeah.
said that in Kisumu, in Nairobi, in Mombasa, there is no place UDA can hold a rally, then their rights have been taken away.
But that is I'm telling you, that is a...
Let me just
Let him
finish.
finish.
Yes.
For as long as they have access to other venues under Stadia, they cannot say that all of their rights have been taken away.
There's no
This
other
one,
space.
I can tell you, and I can bet you, there's a politician somewhere who's playing a game. Whether it's Azimio or UDA, we do not know. Because
Okay.
in politics, the victim can be... the
Maybe
villain.
Mark needs to help us in terms of booking the other venues.
All I can
Because
say,
they've
can you
told
give
us
me a
that those
minute?
venues are not
Yes,
available.
okay.
I think I think at this point in time we should not just you know, evoke emotions and, you know, the common person. And we as politicians need to create a feeling of peace, you know, and peaceful coexistence in general. So picking on trivial matters at any one point and making it a very big deal is not proper,
Okay.
especially when we have bigger things to
All right.
discuss.
Let's take a quick break here on Daybreak. When you come back, keep your views coming at
Trevor, to a rich person,
Yes.
buying bread at 80 shillings and discussing about it is trivial. To a person who cannot afford that bread even at 40 shillings is not trivial. So for us, as our right to assemble,
It's the bread part
It's
that
not
we're
trivial.
coming to in just a bit.
It's
But
not
let's take a quick break now
It's
on
not
Daybreak. When you come back, we'd like to hear your views at Trevor Mbidi at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. We're now reviewing the deputy presidential debate, just a few days to the presidential debate, which is happening on Tuesday. There's a lot that came out. Also, part of it is on the Daily Nation. We'll talk about that in just a bit.